clothing isn't selling, it's probably not the price or the item itself. It's the way you're listing it. I've made over $100,000 in net profit flipping used clothes online, a good chunk of that being from vintage clothes, and I get to help other resellers just like you get their clothing sold for the most money. In this video, I'm breaking down how to list vintage clothing so buyers actually find it, and how to turn views into sales without hopefully overcomplicating things. Coming up. Welcome to the Empowered Reseller, where you gotta just list it. All right, so here's the uncomfortable truth. Most reselling channels seriously underteach listing, myself included. It's fun to talk about sourcing and trends, but this is really where the money is made. I'm not gonna hold back, and I'm gonna give you the best up front. If there's one thing you take away from this video, let it be this. Your listing does not exist to describe the item. It exists to help the right buyers find it. In fact, that's where sales are either won or lost. Once you understand that, everything starts to make sense. So let's break this all down here. Now, you've probably come across this all the time when you're researching comparable sales as well as available listings. You'll come across listings that have similar items, maybe similar vintage items from the same decade, having the same style, and you'll see items that just sit there and never sell. You'll see items that sell for a very low price, and then you'll see other items that sell for substantially more and sell quickly. So what's the difference? It's not luck and it's not the market. It's how clearly the seller explained the item, both what it is and who it's for. Let me show you a couple of examples that are gonna demonstrate how what you learn in this video can directly increase your profits. This is a Y2K era item from a mall brand, and with just some basic keywords of shirt, it only sold for $6, but with the right keywords, it sold for $145. And a pair of shoes, also from the Y2K era, similar story with this one. With just basic keywords in the title, it went for $5, but the same identical pair with the right keywords went for $115. All right, so let's talk titles, because this is where resellers lose the most money without even realizing it. This surprises most people. Your title matters more than your photos. Think about it. If a buyer never finds a listing, the photos never matter. Most sellers do a pretty good job of filling up all of the characters available for the title. Some aren't, that might be a little bit more generic, like women's vintage dress, but most resellers naturally understand this concept of I better maximize the space in my title. However, they're not necessarily including the right information. Just because you filled out the space for the title doesn't necessarily mean that you filled it out with the right info that buyers are searching for. So let me show you how to do this. Think of your title like a cake. We're not gonna just dump frosting on the plate and call it good. Instead, you need layers that work together. Your title should stack what the item is, the style and the silhouette, the fabric or material, the print or different details that are part of that item. It should also include the aesthetic or overall look of the item as well as the decade it's from, especially when you're selling vintage. This matters even more for vintage because a lot of vintage brands aren't searchable, aren't recognizable, or don't mean anything to the buyer. Some items, valuable items, may not even have a brand tag, and all of that is okay. Vintage sells without brands or with unrecognizable brands all of the time. How? By letting keywords do the work. Let me show you a few profitable flips with no brands and why the titles did all the heavy lifting. This is an unbranded blouse made with silk. It sold for $70. The cutest dress where they called out the fabric taffeta and the print gingham, and it went for $75, unbranded. An unbranded jacket that sold because of the style keywords of Western and Aztec. Even just calling out features like mandarin color and puff sleeve can go a long ways. This unbranded jacket went for $55.
And this is one where they didn't even get a whole lot of keywords in the title. They did hit on the decade of the 90s, but most of the style, aesthetic-based keywords are actually in the description. Whimsy goth, emo, grunge, vampire. And this dress where the tag is cut out, essentially unbranded, went for $75.
Quick note, if you're spending tons of time trying to put together your titles, researching, going down ChatGPT rabbit holes, I've got a resource that you're gonna love. And these are my keywords that sell posters. These are all vetted keywords, and it walks you through the step-by-step layering process to be able to get your titles written in a matter of seconds. Lots of users are reporting that sales turn around instantly, and they're able to even bump up their prices and bring in those sales. That's why I give all of these resources free to every VIP inside of the Empowered Reseller coaching program. You'll find the link for the posters as well as how to become a VIP down below this video. And if you're not quite there yet, I also have a free keywords list to help get you started. You'll find that down below as well. All right, back to listings. This one is huge. Let me share this observation with you after looking through thousands of listings. I've noticed that a lot of sellers don't include measurements. I don't care how you do it, whether it's with a measuring tape in photos, in the description, on a board, just pick a method and do it. Because measurements aren't just about fit, they're about making it easy for the buyer to say yes. And with vintage, this matters more than ever because vintage sizes are not the same as today's sizes. In other words, a vintage size 10 is not a 10 in today's sizes. It can help to say things like a vintage size 10 but fits like a modern small. Even putting the modern size in your title is going to go a long ways in getting your item in front of the buyer who it's gonna fit. You're helping the buyer understand. When buyers aren't sure how something is gonna fit, that's when they hesitate. And that hesitation is what costs you the sale. Now, this is something a lot of sellers don't think about. Buyers aren't comparing your item to nothing. They're comparing it to every other similar listing. So imagine this, one seller has a clear title, a clear description, measurements, and another reseller has vague information, no measurements, missing information, and a lot of unanswered questions. Which seller do you think is gonna make the sale? The easier yes will win every single time. Bottom line, your job isn't to hype your item, is to remove any questions, any barriers for them clicking that buy now button. Now this part gets overlooked a lot. I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday that's not a seller, they're on the buying end, and they said it's so cool how the algorithms work nowadays. They don't even necessarily have to go and search for items. The algorithms know the type of item the buyer is interested in and puts those items right in front of the buyer. We're living in an amazing time where we get to have the algorithms working in our favor and putting our items right in front of the perfect buyer. But you have to give the algorithm, you have to give the system the right information for that to happen. We've talked about titles and descriptions and including those measurements, but one of the things that gets most overlooked are item specifics, especially if you're an eBay seller. And I get it, there's a ton there, it feels overwhelming, and it feels like just another thing you have to fill out. So many things. But when you fill out as much information as you can, when you're as specific as you can, that's gonna feed the algorithm, the system, the information that your buyer is after. Filling out the fabric, the style, the decade, the fit, the sleeve type, the neckline, all of those little pesky fields. You're not just helping your buyers, but you're helping the platform. The platform already knows what shoppers like. Let's take, for example, somebody who's maybe doing some research over the past few days and they've been looking for a houndstooth dress from the 1980s and they want a shift style dress. Now, say they searched a couple days ago and then you come and list your item and it happens to meet their criteria. Maybe they're not even on the platform. They don't even know that you listed that item, but the algorithm is going to feed your new listing to that buyer that they know already wants the item. And they don't even necessarily have to be on the platform for that to happen. It can happen through an email or a notification, or even things working in the background that you might not even realize. How many times have you hopped on Facebook and that item that you've been shopping for, it's right there in your feed? Talk about a targeted ad. You get that as a seller on these platforms. They're doing the marketing for you. But I got a little sidetracked there. Basically, the more information that you can feed into the system, the better it's going to be able to utilize targeted marketing. In layman's terms, the better it can match your item with the right buyer. Let's hit some questions that I get asked a lot. Should I put keywords in the title and the description and the item specifics? Yes. You're not doubling up, you're actually reinforcing. The title helps buyers find the item. The description is really helping them feel confident. And the item specifics go a long ways in helping the platform know who to show the items to. If a keyword applies, use it everywhere that it fits naturally. Is it okay to use more than one style or aesthetic keyword? Okay, here, I would say a minimum of 3 to 5 that specifically fit that item. There's always going to be overlap, and when you can include these types of keywords, that's what I call high buyer intent. That means the buyer knows what they want, they're searching on purpose, and they're ready to make the purchase. That's who you want finding your listings, not just casual browsers. And those types of shoppers are gonna pay more too. Now, if a vintage tag says, say, a 10, how do I know what it is in modern sizing? There's a couple ways to handle this. Option 1 is to compare it with a modern brand that people recognize. For example, fits similar to an American Eagle size medium. Option 2 is to use your best judgment, and this gets easier over time. Let's say it's about 17 inches armpit to armpit for a women's item. I automatically know that's around a size small. Closer to 20 inches, then I'm looking at a large or extra large. And you can say that directly in the description. This appears to fit like a modern size fill in the blank based off the measurements below. And you give those measurements. What if I'm not 100% sure on the size? That's okay, just do your best, be honest, give those measurements, and say what it appears to fit like. Buyers appreciate that honesty more than perfection. Do keywords still matter if the brand is really good? 100%. Even with strong brands, keywords matter. Buyers still search by style, fabric, decade, and different features of that item. You can think of it like this: brands help, but keywords close the sale. If you remember one thing from this video, remember this. With vintage, the better you're able to explain the item, the more that it's worth. Now, this is where everything connects. Once buyers find your listing, the next question becomes, how should I price my item to get the most money? If those are the kind of questions you want answers to, just click or tap the screen and I'll show you the pricing strategy that actually pays off. Click here and I'll see you there.